Don, I'm getting your
You did get my emails.
emails.
Okay.
So 2 to 3
so I'll call the meeting to order at 6:05, and Craig, can you call the roll?
Sure, Luke Murray,
Here?
let's see, Alita Hall,
Not here.
Amy Angeloni,
Here.
Dr. Dixon, saw her.
He's around.
Okay, all right, Dave D'Agostino,
He couldn't make it.
Christine Kennedy,
Here.
Kimberly Shockley,
Here.
Don Coward.
Here.
Rob Levesque is not here. Joe Lucian, all right.
Decent name if you want.
Harold Sands, Jason Martin,
Jason said he couldn't be here.
Ms. Pando, John Price,
Here.
and Lee Restall.
I'm here.
All
All
right.
right, great. Well, welcome, everybody. Thanks for kind of accommodating tonight. I'm going to take the hit because of OMA. I had a busy Friday. I didn't get the agenda out. So I woke up on Saturday and I went, wow. So Monday it was. And so I appreciate your flexibility on doing this. And I appreciate Harold's flexibility of shortening up a little bit to accommodate this. So I do have quite a bit under the chairman's report. Lots going on in the past week. I've been coordinating a lot with Phil, who's like a rock star. I'll just put that out there. I don't know when he sleeps, but I don't think it's much. I had breakfast with him today. He's worked up some great boards, which actually I'll show you. Unfortunately, on another screen, but hopefully the majority of you can see this, and I'll rotate it around. Unless you want to come around. So I'm working my mouse on the other side here, so hopefully this works. So these are 30 inches wide by 60 inches high, and they're going to be set up beside the screen. So it's essentially information about the project, and you can see the icons. He's still working on these, but there'll be 6 boards. And so he's going to have pictures of what we have existing and below. So it's going to be, many of you were here for the earlier terminology. It's like what we have, what we want, right? So they'll have pictures of our existing and then kind of what our facility should look, a modern facility should look like. So this is just really displaying some of our project elements and trying to get across what the current state of our facilities are. But you can see the icons, so things about accessibility, general long-term improvements. And he's got this through all the boards, or through a majority of the boards. I'm going to scroll quickly. He's still working on the images. So I said, obviously pick images that are representative of what the current state is. And then as we get down, the lower boards have a little bit more information. So 22 districts have taken advantage of this financing right now from the state, and Coventry has not. That is one fact. Just some of the different things about the project itself, economic growth, community stability, et cetera. And some of the improvements, and then some of the financial, like where the project components are going to be allocated. So not just as far as schools, but he pied out the chart based on, student-centric improvements, interior finishes, safety and well-being. I think it's a better representation to kind of say what types of things we learn, not just this facility gets $1 million, that facility gets $3 million. It's more about the types district-wide that we're actually doing. So I thought he did, my personal opinion is he did a nice job, big, obviously we're going for the 89 million. And then, what our share would be. Now I have also report on that in a second. You've probably heard this from Harold already in the finance team. So we are revising that down a little bit because I want to be a little more conservative in our approach.
I would put the bottom stuff on the top too.
Bottom stuff on the top?
Yeah.
So
I'd put that we're
flip the
getting this
graphic.
reimbursement, time is of the essence. I'd like to leave, I'd like that to be a lead.
And I will actually share these with you. It's a large file, so I'll have to put it in the Google Drive, but I'll send it out tonight when I get back home. I just got this morning. And you can take a look at it if you have other comments. I mean, feel free to make a comment now, but if you have other comments, feel free to take a look. But he's going to need to know fairly soon because obviously time's a ticking. But he's going to print these directly on foam core and have these set up on easels along the side of the presentation. So do I have any other comments from the committee on
I don't know if it should be on a phone for, but part of what we were talking about earlier is, $89 million over 25 years is this much money, like with interest. And if we do this now, instead of paying $130 million for this project, we'll pay $65 million.
Which
Over
we
25
haven't been able to get together since your financial discussion. I know some of the numbers, but I know that Harold and I have been keeping in touch, but I've been really giving the committee, like, I've been staying out of it, right? I didn't come in today. So you and I should talk about some of the numbers, the round numbers, if we're going to create, we may want to create a new board just on the finance, like the round finances. We're not there as far as the financial plan, right? We have to bring the count to the table. We know that. What I really wanted the finance committee to do is come together on understand the numbers. So we have a committee really understanding, digging deep with Harold on figuring this side of it out. That doesn't mean it necessarily fits into the larger municipal plan, but at least we figured out to a point where our plan is. So, do we have any more
Can I
on
ask
the
this,
board?
is this gonna be on a QR code where somebody could read it? Is it gonna just be up on the boards? Is it gonna be a link for people? Like, how is this gonna be?
So that's a good question. This is primarily for the meeting at this point.
Okay.
However, Don knows I've iterated to the marketing team, like, we need to get moving, right? These teams need to stop popping.
Okay.
So it's going to be critical that we start at a minimum getting the social presence and some of this information. Now, these boards could be put out now, right? After a meeting, I think even one at a time per day, every other day or something could just be splashed up as starting the information campaign at a minimum.
How about a QR code on some of them so that people can get in more information? And then if this is going to be something that we link as far as a presentation, at the top at least have something where it says, please continue to scroll down to get more information. Just because, just even, like, I look at the kids, I look at this parents, like, they see something, they think that's it, and they don't know enough to scroll down. And it's
No
just-
one knew they had to get a Chromebook today.
Yeah, well, it's even, I had to tell you state testing.
Yeah.
We had state testing.
My daughter
They didn't
included.
know to scroll down, like, so it's just like, those are things that, it's just a reminder to say, all right, this is what we have.
So I like, I don't know, did others have thoughts on that? QR
I
codes?
think any way people can get more information to take with them is good.
I mean, personally, I think QR code is always a good idea to point information. The question is, where does it go to?
And people are
So
so
that's
used to
the
it
key
now.
that I don't have right now is where does it get
Right,
taken?
and not too much, like where they get like certain pieces, but it can't be so lengthy that people get, right, get swamped out with stuff.
Fair enough.
Or you want more on finance, go here. You want more on the, like where, like as far as numbers or things like that, go here.
So short term, if we want to get a QR code up on these boards, what I could do is do a Google Drop link QR code to the stage 2 report for now, right? Later on, as we go through the process, my hope is it goes to the website because that's much more user friendly.
Right.
But if we want to get something up now, I think the most logical thing is to bring them to the document, right? So they can see for themselves what that entails. I don't know how others feel about that. But I think that's doable in our time frame if we want to go down that route now. And then we can always modify the graphics for the web. That's easy, right? We can always flip the QR code, repost it.
Well, we can change, like someone clicks on a QR code, we can change what it goes to, right?
No,
So
you
it
have to
can go
bounce the
from-
link. So when you do, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, when that QR code codes, right, you put in the website, it codes a specific website, right? So I'd have to bounce that website.
But how about if we put it to like.
But
the
you can
Google
change
Docs,
the
where it
information
goes to-
on the website. That code will just bring you
Mhm.
right back to the same site. So you can update the information. It just,
You don't have to
The
change the
code will
code.
change
You could
the
just
That's what I'm
change
Stay the
thinking, if we keep the
Right.
code the same.
If I'm pointing to the website, but the only problem with it right now is a dead stick.
right, there's no way
So
to go.
for, if anybody cues it in right now, they're gonna get a dead site. And
Mhm.
that's almost worse. Unless you decide to,
Joe just mentioned that you can point to like a Google document that you regularly update. And then as that document changes, so will the content on that site.
Right, so you could change all the document on it, because everything's going on so much, I started doing all documents.
All
so
Google
that-
Docs?
Yeah, so that,
so you have one running
I got one
document.
running document,
Yeah.
all the stuff that there, and updates are like in a different color, so that people know.
I mean, worst case scenarios later on, I could always it'll bounce them to a link and I say, go here
Yep.
to learn more information and have the
That's
website
it.
link once we get it up and
Yes.
running. So,
Yep.
okay.
Yes,
So why don't I'll communicate that to Phil, QR code to a Google Doc. I'll include links to the drive folders for the stage 1, stage 2 for now. The envisionment is eventually we're going to have FAQ and all this fun stuff on the site too, to answer a lot of these questions, because the social media hopefully will not be a banter back and forth. It'll be, someone has a question, here's the fact, link.
and you could even
No,
post
that's
on
it.
on that doc, updated frequently, more updates to come on, like, you know, please look for the updates or something, so that when it goes to that, they know, all right, this is where I go, this is where I look, and it's something that
So,
easy for people, or easier.
all right, so that's good. I think we've settled that one. I don't want to go too far down the marketing lane either, because that's Don's. I want to be respectful of that team. So specifically to this, we'll include the QR code to a doc to at least get some information for this. And we can always modify it later. So I think it's a good suggestion. Others at this point?
Now, is this going to be a handout or just on like a phone board?
It'll be a phone board display. Now,
Okay.
I could, you know, it's difficult to format an 8.5 by 11 or anything like that because it's stretched.
Mhm.
You know, it's meant to be a vertical board that's higher than wider. So
I think what I wanted to say is that I like the color scheme, and on a phone board, I think it's very dramatic. But if some of this were converted to like a handout, an 8.5 by 11 handout, and someone didn't have a colored printer, it would show up very well because of so many grays and blacks.
right.
So as a color scheme for a phone board, I think it's great. But if you were to translate into some kind of handout for people, if you're at a school or something, you might need something different.
So that's where the marketing team's going to step in. This is a stopgap to get us to this meeting, right? To get us some materials. My understanding is Phil is working with you, right? Is he can take some of this content, boil it into different formats. I know you're working on color schemes and branding and all that good stuff, right? So I'm sure that your team can handle that. And I have full confidence you will do that. So for now, you know, it will be on the court, but I know it won't be an 8.5 by 11. The only, and I'll get into the 8.5 by 11, I will include in a minute, but anything else on this?
The only other question is the meeting going to be a Zoom meeting too, or just in person?
It's going to be live streamed. I've already put the live stream link on the agenda that I sent out publicly. So we're not doing Zoom. Zoom's a whole nother management scenario, as you guys know. And so
I've
we
just always
decided not to
loathed
do that.
about those live streams. I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know what you're doing. Like,
So that's a good point.
I
I like
can
to be able
never
to see
find
this
the
stuff.
live stream link.
So the live stream link, I did do something different on this one, and actually it'll be something I'll bring up to the school committee. Is I think the live link should be on all our agendas, right?
I
think that's
also think
easy.
that.
I think that was.
I think it's an easy add, and we now have a dedicated YouTube site. It'll bring you to our YouTube site, which has the live link when it goes live, right? So that's the no-brainer. I included it on the public one that I sent out. I actually asked Jim for that link, and we put it on both the agenda, like the publicity agenda, and then the actual agenda. So that's taken care of. As far as seeing the presentation, it's a good point. So I'm going to make a note of that because we may have some slides that you could. Can you bring that up though?
I could bring up the slides just.
Because you're using Zoom as a pass-through.
Yeah.
So we could actually put slides up as we're
That'd be great. I
presenting.
mean, for me as a resident, it would be a lot better if I'm seeing the presentation that the council's seeing than if I'm seeing the council.
Right.
I mean, we're a good looking crew, but I think people could live without staring at us.
Points well taken.
No, that was the one benefit I really liked to Zoom. It wasn't so much the interaction, it was that I could see everything that the council sees or the school committee sees. And it is extremely helpful. And actually tomorrow, I want to be presenting and Phil we'll be using slides at the orientation meeting.
And is
So
there a reason there couldn't be a Zoom?
it's part of its management. And honestly, I'm a little fuzzy, like so this is the burden I have I have my foot in two different cities, and my city solicitor on Warwick has said, don't do it because you could be violating OMA. I'm not sure what John's actually, I think John actually guided us not to do so. I know that the town may be getting a different opinion on that.
I don't
wanna get in the middle of it.
Zoom the whole thing, but like, if I could click into a Zoom and treat it if live stream can do it, then that's fine, but treat it like a live stream. You
Yeah.
know, like, but I can see all the documents, I can write in a question if I want to, like, Zoom has some features that would be really beneficial for this particular meeting.
So technically YouTube has a comment feature too, right? If you wanted to utilize it,
Yeah,
it's just
it's been
management.
problematic, like, you know,
Yeah,
there was a comment, I reached out, there was a comment on one of those town council meetings. First, when you click it, and it was pornography.
Well, you can
Right, so I
also
mean-
make it so that only the presenters can see the questions, I think.
No, but, well.
So if I have to see.
If you're
porn, that's
using Zoom
unfortunate for me,
platform.
But you're
Yeah.
not showing it to the general.
Yeah,
public.
yeah.
It's just difficult. The bottom line is it's difficult to manage because like with a group Zoom, you have one computer, right? You're using a camera. So you would have to have, like, we'd have to have the facilitator. And I think we've made the decision like not that I want the cooperation, but I think people who really care show up. And those who want to view it at their own leisure, they have that option, you know, but I think for this, I have enough to manage, quite
Is there a
honestly.
Feature like Meets or Zooms where you could post documents in like a comment or something where people could click on them and get the documents? I don't know. I just.
I'm not
We
sure.
could
Post
post-
that on the website too. And we can post that on the.
But I know what Kim's saying is like, it's nice to see the same presentation, with the way that everybody else is.
And I think there's a hybrid there that can be done. Like, I think that is totally doable. We can work on that. So that's a good bridge.
Presentation up. If I have a copy of the presentation, I can flip through it on here as he's going through it, and people watching the live stream get the exact same.
So we'll need to talk.
The perfect doesn't have to be any really good. That sounds good.
Okay. All right. So fair. Good suggestion though, because I have heard frustration in the live streams that they're not seeing or not hearing. That's the other thing. We're going to have a little disadvantage we'll go over in a second. So on testing some of this, but we're going to make it work. Right. Anything else as far as suggestions, the
Where-
boards or the meeting?
Where you stopped on that slide.
Yeah.
My eyes keep going to that 89 million. And if I'm going shopping and I'm looking at the price tag, I want to see the sale price, and I'm losing the sale price on that part of the slide.
That's a good comment.
Right?
50% off.
No, it's true.
Right.
You
You're
should
gonna
highlight
go into
the advantage
store
of the
and
project,
you're
which is
advertising 50% off. I'm
No.
really going to go if you tell me it's 60% off.
it should be whatever 50 million state share.
Yeah, they
right?
don't
You know,
say
Right.
some things are 10% off on this rack. They say up to 50% off,
That's true.
and they get you to the rack.
$89 million project for.
Yeah,
Right.
the low cost.
The
Yeah.
rack is full of small size t-shirts.
That always happens.
Yeah.
So I'll bring that up to Phil as well. That's a really good observation. So others. And like I said, I will send it out. So we have a little bit of time. So please just take a look. If you have other comments, we'll incorporate them. It's a group effort. We need the feedback and you know, I come from one perspective. You all have your own and I appreciate that. So keep it coming. All right. So the venue, I sent out that masks are now mandated in school buildings. It presents a problem. I mean, from my standpoint, because I think it changes the dynamic of how the meeting will be run. No problem if anyone wants to wear a mask, but I do think from the presenter side, it's more difficult. And the idea was that this was going to be an interactive presentation. Gets a little more difficult. So Craig and I spoke today. We're going to change the venue location to the senior center. We've talked to Bob Robillard. He's amenable to that. We'll be getting that word out. We're going to communicate with the town. We're going to change the agenda. We have time, so we can do that. Makes it a little more difficult because we were going to actually assess tonight the layout and try to think through that. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult. I may
We'll have
see
to
if
go over there at some point.
maybe I can meet you Friday or something. Maybe if we can just get in to take a look.
And just make
and
sure
think it
I'm
through.
going to be there.
So I wanted to have it there. Unfortunately, it's not available on Monday. So we're going to have that at the administration conference room. We will have to have masks for the dry run. But I don't think the dry run. So what we're thinking as far as presentation, I'm putting together a Prezi presentation. And I don't know if you're familiar with Prezi,
That's fine.
but Prezi is a platform that allows you, for those who aren't familiar, it's a web-based presentation platform. It's more interactive than PowerPoint and allows you to kind of dig deep into the presentation. So picture a bubble and then you click on that bubble and then it brings up an image and then you click on that image and it brings in. So it's like you delve down different scenarios. And so we're coming up with a series of questions that will ask you very brief answers But, you know, it may be something like, Christine, you were here from the beginning. You know, what was the first things that we did in the process? And I'll help you with that answer on Monday. And you know, trying to just give you some sort of remind yourself of what has occurred, right? But, and then I'll go to the next person and say, all right, what else do we do? You know, how do we approach the decision-making process for the middle school? How many concepts did we go through, Kathy? Do you remember? 13, right? Looking number 13. You know, what was some of the, Lee, what was some of the short, you know, very briefly, what were some of the discussions that were had and thought process behind consolidation versus the middle school renovation, right? The biggest thing I think we can get out of this is explain to everybody how our process went. What was the decision tree to get here, right? We didn't just drop a project and said it was good, right? We get everyone up to speed by answering these questions. And this was Phil's sort of, for those who weren't here, Phil had a really good suggestion on how to work this, right? To keep it interactive, to keep the building members while having each building member come up to the front. This will allow me to facilitate and kind of pull everybody into the process very quickly because we have 45 minutes,
Can
right?
people do a quick intro? Like, I only know because I talked to Elise the other day, but, you know, I'm Alifa Hall. I work for X, and currently I'm working on the East Providence High School project.
So, yeah,
I think it's a pretty potent piece of information for people to understand, like, not coming at this as a parent of a kid who might someday go to a middle school, coming at it from a builder's perspective.
I think it's a good point, and it's something that Phil and I spoke about this morning. So my thought on this was, because we are time limited, you have an email in your box now. I asked for 4 pieces of information: your name, your occupation, your status, like you're a resident volunteer or whatever, why you joined the building committee. And you can feel free to add any other real quick tidbit that you want, right? Interesting fact, we'll call it, right? You can add that. We're going to create a packet that'll go to everybody there, and it'll have the name of the building committee member and the brief synopsis. So we'll have a multi-page packet so people can view it and also take it and look at it and soak it in a little bit. So we'll do a quick introduction because, again, 2 hours will go by very quickly. And I think by 9 o'clock, I'm going to lose everybody. And I want to have enough time to have people ask questions, right? That's the point of this, right? So I want to leave after that break. I don't want to have additional presentation. I'd like to have people go get their coffee and donut, come back and ask any questions. Look at the board.
How many minutes do you think?
Craig's working on if you have any requests, Craig's working on the pastries.
How many minutes do you think it's going to take for every member of the committee to stand up there and say, I'm so-and-so?
It would probably, we have 15 people, right? Even if it's 20 seconds, do the math, right?
Right.
So that's my concern.
You've got 2 hours.
Right. So that's my concern. My thought is through the packet, we'll refer to the building committee and I'll kind of say, hey, we have a very robust committee. We have construction, as you'll see in your packet, we have construction managers, interested community volunteers. We have people with military backgrounds and who come at this from all different directions of the community. So I think that just gets everyone like, okay, I can look at my packet, you know. That's my thought on it. The packet's not done yet. So if I just have better ideas, feel free to throw them at me. But that was the best thing I could come up with.
That's great. It's like a playbill.
I think it's powerful when you look at I've always said the makeup of this building committee. I think it's very powerful, and for people to walk away with that, I think it's important.
Just for the record, I wanted photographs. Phil said, I don't think they'll want to have photographs, so I won't include photographs. That's up to you. If you have a glamour shot,
All
you
the
want to
beautiful
include it.
people. want it.
Yeah.
And it's the
Maybe
rest of
before the
us.
full vote, we'll get to a light touch or whoever the.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, light touch. We'll all get one, like the teachers.
Josh Choppy. I'll do it if you tell.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, at the website stage, depending on how you guys want to handle it. But I think for now, we'll just do a bolded title, bolded name, and we'll kind of just make it poppy. I'm sure Phil will do something to make it look nice and give it as part of a packet. So good with that? All right. Funding. Some of you know, because you're on the finance committee, some of you don't know. So there's been discussions going back and forth between Steve Mascaroni and which is the town's financial advisor. Harold's working on that end of it. The finance committee's been working on strategies, funding thoughts on how this could go. In those conversations, we're we're looking at the incentives. We're definitely approved for 3 incentives. There's some additional incentives that would get us up to past 60%. But we don't really feel comfortable with throwing that out right now. I don't feel comfortable with throwing that out right now. I think it's better to be conservative with the community. I feel extremely confident based on multiple discussions we've had and the fact that they pushed us into this last incentive to get us an extra 5%, that will get to 57.8%. There are additional percentages you can get for energy, but I really think that's part of a cost benefit analysis. I spoke to Phil about that today. He seems to think that it's no problem to get us that. It doesn't have to kick us into a lead building type situation, which there's a cost benefit on. You know, lead buildings, right? There's a cost to lead buildings. So for now, I think it's prudent to say, hey, we're confident on the 57.8. I think the numbers still work well at that. I haven't seen the latest and greatest, but I think they would confidently know that that won't change the dynamic. And I think that's the honest thing to tell voters, right? The truly honest thing is, you know, we know for a fact, without a doubt, we have our base housing rate. Feel very confident that we'll get that 57.8. That last 3, 4, 5%, we don't know. So I'd rather just keep it off the table right now. Does anybody disagree with that as far as? So in your communications moving forward, 57.8 is the key number, and we're going to be dialing that back a little bit. We've been telling people to 62, don't feel really like that's may not tell the full story. So we'll dial it back.
I think the reason we were presenting that, though, prior to recent conversations, was because we had documentation that from the school building authority that was indicating the 62.8. So I think it's the work that's been done.
It's just that those last incentives are not written in stone. So
Can I ask, on the evening of the meeting, are we going to have Steve Mascaroni or the gentleman from Ride?
So not Steve Mascaroni. He's more the financial advisor, but I would expect that the understanding is, listen, we know we have work to do with the town. We want to work in cooperative fashion. I've said that from the beginning. My hope is that we can continue to do that. Steve will be definitely part of my hope. Steve will be part of that along with bond counsel, because they have to weigh in as well on just the experience on the bonding side. We did invite the SBA. We invited Mario and Joe. Seth Magaziner, as you know, is our intro speaker, and it's a very political season right now. So there's some concern on that side. They offered to write a letter of support or do whatever else they could do. They said they were sending it up the chain. So I said, I need to know by the end of this week. So I'll touch base with them tomorrow. Whether Mario is coming.
Oh.
No, Seth is locked in. Unless something happens, I have him locked in. I've talked to the scheduler. Is it Chris?
It is a political season, and Coventry's a big town. But he doesn't get invited to a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up.
Yeah, well, who's that? Seth. Yeah, Seth, no problem. It's the SBA who now works for a different governor, and there's always, you know the deal. You work in state government, you know the deal. So they said they were going to run it up the food chain, get an answer. But we did have a good conversation. That was another piece of my chairman's report that I'll get into. But so we have Seth locked in. I'll have to look back at the list. We do have some members of the legislative delegation who have confirmed. So my hope is they'll show. And obviously school committee, I think I had unanimous from school committee and town council that'll be there. So we'll have a good attendance. And I know I've already gotten people from the public who want to attend. So I think we'll have hopefully a good turnout.
I mean, not for nothing, I might invite Bob too. Very vocal. And he supports this project.
He is very vocal.
And he doesn't support the budget.
No.
So it's kind of a funny juxtaposition.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I sent out. I sent up the agenda. I'm keeping any response factual. I'm not getting into the weeds and stuff. If people ask direct questions, I try to provide direct answers. That is it. That's all I'm doing right now. I don't like to leave things hang, because sometimes the questions are loaded. And I think it's better just to address it with fact or a link and just say, kind of diffuse it, but don't get into emotion. Just so hopefully that continues to be the case. Bob, yeah. Do you know him?
I don't, but
he's a Facebook engager, right?
But I will say one question, and I don't want to acknowledge the question, but possibly make very clear that based on how we're getting this funding, spending it in these exact ways is very important. Whether or not we ever spent the bond on things that it wasn't supposed to be for, I don't know, but it seems to be public perception.
Yeah, I won't go down that road
So,
here.
that's
It
what I'm
is
saying,
something
yeah.
that has come up multiple times while I've been on school committee, and I know there was an issue in previous administrations about something. I believe
when
it
you
was
bring it
something that
up.
wasn't approved by RIDE before they spent the money. Is that a correct assumption?
We
Kathy,
didn't
you were
get, yeah,
here.
we didn't get housing aid because of the process.
Right,
I believe it was, there was a lot of housing aid that was left on the table, but it was, yeah, and I don't have all the details.
right. I mean, this is
anecdotal.
pre the current superintendent. This is pre a lot of people.
Right.
And
So,
like I said, I don't really want to acknowledge that. I just
Yeah.
want to
right.
have the clarity. of it.
Yeah.
I agree that I'm a believer in factual information, right? If the fact is we missed out on housing aid at some point 10 years ago, if that's a fact, that's a fact. What it has to do with today, I have no idea. And that's kind of how I'd approach it. Like, yeah, okay, you're right. But all we can do is move forward, right? Different people, different process, acknowledge it, move on. You know, what do you know, I can't pay, we all can't pay for past sins, right? We just plow on. So, but it's a fair point. I mean, this is the stuff that we're gonna have to determine whether we're gonna go down a hole or just leave it, you know? And that's a tough call. We're gonna have to, this is how communities are getting in trouble, is they go down these holes and then it becomes less about the project and more about other stuff.
Again, I think when you look at the credibility of this building committee, I think that, you know, in my small little life, I've been involved with others and they've been extremely just political. And so when you come up to tough decisions, the politics kicks in where this is not this committee. I think that's the one of the strongest assets or, you know, characteristics that we have going for us. I think just the quality of the individuals.
I think the greatest single thing we can all do is just to like let people know, hey, I'm not just coming at this as a politician or I have an agenda or anything else. It's a volunteer effort. We're all volunteering our time tonight away from our kids, our families, other things, because we believe in the project. And we're people, we're residents of Coventry, right? And I think if we can humanize the project, it becomes more, you know, believable, right?
Right.
And it should be believable because that's the truth, you know, so. So other thing on chairman's report, we did have a meeting with RIDE last week, right? Getting this right?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yes,
Oh, it was
sorry. Productive meeting. They just wanted to really reach out, anything that they just factually just wanted to tell us, like anything we can do. So I said, well, you could show up at the meeting, which, you know, still under advisement. But they continue to be very supportive. They realize this is an important process. Our eyes, you know, the eyes are on us, for sure. And they know how South Kingstown went, the fallout from that's still going on. But communities like Newport are gearing up to build their facilities. So winners and losers all across the board. So we'll see how this goes going forward. What else did I have? I think that's it for now for chairmans. I apologize for such a long chairman's report. But
Can I just add to that? Just our last meeting, I think they said again, though, they were stressing just the work that this committee has done, you know, and just acknowledging the work. And, you know, again, they were very they want us to be successful. They said, you know, Coventry needs a win and, you know, they wanted to make sure if there was anything they could do to support us, like Luke had said, come to the meeting. But, you know, they reiterated again, knowing that the work that's gone on here. So that's nice to hear, I think, to be validated.
It was, and the fact that they continue to be supportive is going to be very helpful as we go through this process, because that's not always the case. We all know they didn't cut us our request, which is uncommon. So, all right, any questions for me as I move out of the chairman's report on any items I presented? Okay, all right, great. SPC joint meeting, we talked a little bit about this, the boards. So Craig is getting some food and goodies, and so I guess if you have any special requests or thoughts.
Do you want us to potluck this? I mean, everyone pick something up?
No, we'll get stuff. I mean, I think that, you know, just it's gonna be 7 to 9, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah, it's gonna be probably
we're
post
ordering
dinner.
stuff from Dave's, things that
but-
people can eat, and we're gonna make sure that we have some gluten-free things there in case there are people that are gluten-free. And Patty Martin is putting together kind of a menu. We'll have coffee and water. So.
Anybody
It
have
won't be
any
like a
thoughts
full
on
meal, but
particular
it'll be-
food? For me, it's like coffee. I'm good,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I find most food you buy for these sorts of things goes very uneven, so I wouldn't buy a ton.
yeah, I said the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like a couple finger food type things if somebody's hungry, didn't have a chance to eat at dinner. But I don't think.
Because we're gonna have a
it's
break
great.
too, right?
Yeah, so a lot of you probably saw the agenda that I put out. It very kind of timed out schedule. So we'll have the introductions for about 15 minutes because obviously we have to call the meetings to order. This is a joint meeting still. And I did talk to Dave D'Agostino because they said, well, it's a bit of a workshop format, so it gets into a bit of a gray area, but he advised just open up the meetings like we normally do. So I'll open it up to the school building committee, we'll have town council, the school committee. I have it on the agenda, kind of the role, and then we'll be open. And then we'll roll into quick introduction. Seth Magaziner will have his moments. I'm hoping he can kind of keep it to the 15 minutes. I know he's very good at speaking and he knows. We'll get with him beforehand. I'm going to make a call in tomorrow or Friday to just touch base, make sure they're clear on the timeframes. And then we'll go into our presentation. I thought it was a good time to have a break. Phil and I kind of talked about, I said, it's going to be an hour and 15. People are going to, you don't want to lose people. That also gives him a chance. He's going to have a couple other boards. So we have the model, which is going to be out front. The idea is it's going to be in front of us the whole presentation. So the model's big. It's probably, I say it's big. It's probably, a good section of this table, right? So it'll be right in front of us on display because that's the major project. And he built out not only, some of you saw the model, but he built not only the building and the site plan, but a lot of the context around it, the campus, the fields, everything. I actually went up and hiked there last week with my dog. I took all the trails and back just to kind of get a feel for the land back there. So it's quite nice. You get a chance and you have a dog or kids, you feel free or whatever. So he's done a great job on that. Again, he's a rock star on all this. We'll have the boards. He's going to have some boards of the campus itself. So I think we're going to be more than enough during break time for people to kind of go off, digest some of that. And my hope is when we come back, they'll have even more questions. So, and I was very clear, we're not going to be able to answer all questions. Some of these finance questions to be continued, but that's the whole point. I want to flesh out what can't be answered because we need to, we as a group need to start answering this. And we're going to have a kind of a post-meeting follow-up, laying that out, like what do we need to accomplish, right? Where are our gaps? If the people at this meeting have the questions, so are probably 10 others.
And I also think the finance, this is your first meeting really with the town council, where there's gonna be a lot of conversation and it's gonna focus on the financial part. That's gonna be part of it. So I don't want every financial question to be answered with, we're really not sure yet, we're working on that, because it's important.
Well, and so this is where, Harold, you and I need to get together, like after this meeting or tomorrow. I'm here. So I want to get a sense of where you're at as a finance team, because the finance team can talk to some of this too, right? Even if it's just, this is our understanding of where we're at, right? The goal of the finance team was really to come up with a fairly reasonable plan, right? Whether that's valid or not, I don't know yet, because town council is ultimately going to validate that and working with the town manager and finance director, but coming up with some reasonable ways to finance it, right? So, and do the research, like try to help advance the process by answering questions with Steve, with Mario, come at it with factual data, right? And quite frankly, part of it is I want you to work with Harold a little bit to understand his thought process behind it. So you as a team might be able to address some of those questions.
And because it's just next Monday and our team doesn't meet again, a lot of our team is council or school committee, like we pointed out. John, I feel you have a strong grasp of what Harold says, and might be a good person if there are some things that team wants to speak out on. Sometimes hearing it from a finance director is really high level.
Harold doesn't speak at high level at all.
Having a resident of our community, you know, like you two gentlemen, be able to say, let's have it approved what you can't say before we go out there. But being able to say something from a resident level and not from a finance director level.
Yeah,
So maybe
Unbelievable.
I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some high points that
I can go.
we can
through.
talk about.
Yeah.
And if I would ask the team to come up with some points that you think should be addressed and help John with that. It's great. I think it's a great idea. Having, you know, you kind of, I don't want to call it dumb it down, but it does. It gets complicated quick, as the finance team has probably seen. This is the
Those
biggest.
who can do.
If you're not
Those who
in
can't teach.
if you're not in finance, you don't understand school finance. And we've had discussions ad nauseum on this, different strategies. It gets complicated very quick. So I think trying to come at it from a different approach that may be more understandable is great. So
Just to add to that, one of the things that we discussed at the finance team meeting is basically sort of really bring it down to a 4 or 5 points, and I think that's what I'll share with you, John. And that it basically has a storyline to it, and that's what I plan to do in the next 24 to 48 hours, is get that out to the team and have them comment on it so that we have a clear, concise team, sort of 4 or 5 points if that works.
so we have you're on it, you're on it, you're on it, and Lee's on it, right? Amy's on it. Okay. I'm not on it. Would you be willing to give a brief overview of what the finance team has been doing before John goes on? So we have another one? No, you don't want to? Okay,
No.
okay, fair enough. So looks like you're right.
Okay.
All right,
I leave it to the engineer.
okay. All right, fair enough. I was just trying to include more people in the dialogue, and obviously Lee's not an elected official either, so just trying to pull you in.
I'm concerned about two things. Number one, who are we trying to present the whole thing to? And number two, we have 2 hours to do this, including questions. And we have to be sure that we get our point across to the right audience on Tuesday night so that they can come to a decision what to do with the program.
I don't think that my interpretation of the goal is not that. I don't expect this to be the finish. This is the start, right? This is meant to serve as a step off point for the next phase to get everybody on the same page. So there will be questions that won't be answered. There's additional information I'll be given. This won't be the first meeting. This is the first important meeting of the process. But when we come out, the idea is that we're dialoguing together. It feels more like a workshop, right? We're collaborating and stepping off on the same footing, right? Toward a decision, which will be hopefully probably 3 months from now. Well, what I've said is just prior to Thanksgiving in that zone, and Ann and I have communicated some dates, that I expect that there will be a decision. But the point of this is to get everyone comfortable over the next few months, as opposed to dropping a packet on council and saying, review all this information and we need a decision this night. They're part of the process. We're all at the table, right? So by the time we get to that decision, hopefully it's an easy decision, but even if it's a tough decision, you have all the information.
That's a great intro, actually, is to be like, you know, the school building committee has worked for the past couple of years to come up with a solution. And tonight we're starting this process with you. You know, I think it's a really good way of saying, we're not looking to make you make a decision tonight. We're looking to get input and feedback and questions. You know, we're looking for those questions we can't answer, because we want to be able to answer those questions by the time we're putting this to vote.
So it's a factual information dump in an engaging manner. That's basically where we're just headed towards.
Yeah. I just didn't want to be a PowerPoint by PowerPoint, quite honestly. I do those all day, right?
But it
So,
also, it also serves as a kickoff in terms of marketing and PR, because we've kind of stayed below the radar on that. And so once the council and all the members that are there hear it, then we can begin sharing information about what this is all about. Because I think ultimately, our first audience is the council, because they have to vote. If we can't get past the council, we're in big trouble. But then the council is influenced by their constituents. So we have to make sure that people know what's going on.
And we have said from the beginning, we needed to get the political will to be, a viable project, right? Council does listen to the constituents. So we need to be on the same page right out of the gate on what this project is. What does it mean? If somebody asks anybody coming out, my goal would be that once we step out of the meeting, anybody can answer at least baseline questions about the project. Because there are a lot of elected officials here and somebody's going to ask a question and hopefully that's an answer that jives before we came out of that meeting with. So.
You're expecting 2 votes in November, 1 to go after enabling legislation and 1 for the town council to say, yes, we want to bring it to a referendum. I'm not sure I.
It's
understand
one
how
and the
many votes
same.
We have what?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk.
Is there 1 or 2 votes?
One vote.
1 vote and that is what?
It's a resolution
Yes.
to go to request enabling legislation for a bond.
Okay.
Because by doing that, you're effectively saying we're giving it the green light to go to bond. That's your authorization, one shot. Now, we'll have meetings prior to that, where we'll be giving the updates,
Sure.
financing plan, more refined financing plan. Hopefully, there's a whole nother component missing. We know that, right? But I didn't want to get that involved because it muddies everything down at this point, right, with the town. Because it does get in the weeds, right? There's some back and forth that needs to happen, some critical thinking. I think that's the next step. Right now, we're trying to get the high level of the project,
I'm not so sure that we're actually having a workshop as we are having a discussion, because when I think of a workshop, I think of people being given tasks and they do something. Or they're in little groups and they're discussing something.
You're right.
This is not really what's going to happen. So what we need to position is, what is this thing? Because Lee said you only got 2 hours, but actually we don't have 2 hours, because by the time you get through all the introductions and you get through the boards, et cetera, maybe you have max 45 minutes.
Yeah, and that's what I've allocated.
45 minutes, and it's not really a workshop. I mean,
It's not, and-
discussion, it's a.
Yeah, perhaps my terminology is wrong. It's a work type shop format, and in that it's a bit less formal than a traditional meeting, right? It's a presentation, but it's interactive. So I think actually Christine nailed it. It's an interactive presentation.
It's an information dump in an interactive way.
No, I
Yeah.
understand that. So I mean, instead of calling it a workshop, it's not a workshop.
Yeah, I don't think I called it even on the agenda. I think I called it an interactive presentation is what
Yes,
I put it out as. So yeah, you're right. Ian. It's not a workshop. And you're absolutely right. We may have some workshops along the way. This isn't it. But I don't want to, I'm trying to not make it sound like a formal meeting where you go sit down and people in front of the room saying for 2 hours, this is what the project is about. We've had those.
I actually think that would be detrimental. If we spoke at people for 2 hours straight,
Yeah.
they would walk out with nothing. I think
See a lot of bobbing
using
heads.
45 minutes strategically will have a bigger impact than 120 minutes of overload, and that's my opinion. But
Now, you are anticipating people asking questions throughout the presentation, or you're going to ask them to hold the questions?
So that's a good question. I'll pitch it to the committee. We have 45 minutes. Questions drag things down very
I would think
quickly.
you want to get your information
So
out.
my thought was to keep popping, like Christine, Kim,
Do
boom,
we
boom,
have a-
boom.
Yeah, it's hard. When I give presentations, I kind of like
I
to
know.
answer a question during that part, like in order to avoid confusion, but it might be because of what I present.
well, the other thing we can
Give
do
them a
is
workshop,
we can put Post-it notes out and maybe a
Appreciate it.
easel
Yeah.
someplace, and people can either put questions on Post-it notes that we can pick up, or they can put questions on easels so that they can become part of the FAQ. And then if we want to cherry pick a few questions out of that bundle, just to kind of answer some questions, then we.
What if we had a question runner? So we have Post-it notes at each station, and when people can write down the question right there, right then, and we have a runner take it and stick it on a visual
That could
board
be a
up front.
question walker.
Want me to bring Ellie?
There you go.
There's no running here, but a walk.
But Don's idea has a lot of merit, because people have questions and they're itching to say those questions. And if they have a way of putting a question down, they're a little bit more patient and waiting for the question to be answered.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I like
Are you
the
guys
idea.
okay with the posted idea?
Yes.
I think it's nice to see a question go up on a board, so you know it's gonna get addressed, right? It's like, oh, it's there, it's land banked, you know? So,
And then if you-
It's actually kind of a cool visual. If you put up like a chart paper and people just put their Post-its up there, you get a nice little visual too.
Or if you had, and also if you had somebody, I'm sorry, if you had someone who could almost sort of categorize some of the questions,
Yeah.
because they're gonna be repeats.
Mhm.
So if you had some sort
Sort
of
of.
categories, then you could sort of deal
Mhm.
with
Yeah.
the categories.
maybe I
that's
can
what the
have
runner does,
Phil
he puts
make a plot
Yeah.
that he can put out with some different categories on it, and then we can just apply the note to that different category, so it's already pre-thought, like we just have a question board. So I'll talk to Phil about question one. I'm gonna have to go back on the recording of this meeting, all the ideas being thrown out.
So can I ask this? Because are we envisioning people who are tech savvy coming to this or not tech savvy? Because to me, I think if we had somebody to either fill out like a Google form, or if we were able to have somebody to type in the questions quick, it's already documented. We have it on a link, and then we could open up a question and answer page, basically with all the answers, where somebody could run down and say, hey, here's the parking lot that we had, here's all the questions that we had, here's the ones we were not able to get to, bang, here's the answers for it. Just a thought.
Another good thing
We
that,
could choose a
so
committee.
when I go to different work events, typically at the end of a presenter, they give me a form and they're like, what do you think of the presenter? What do you think of the content? What do you think of this? So
Yeah, post. survey.
possibly we could do like a survey of those leaving.
An exit
They're already
survey.
engaged
Yeah.
and we can just say, you know, what are your thoughts on the middle school project? Why do you like or dislike it? You know, do you have a question we weren't able to answer tonight? Something like that.
You could also say, if we're gonna do this presentation again, what could we do better?
Hmm.
What did we do well? What could we do better?
And that could be done via QR code too.
Yeah, and it's good because it,
Mhm.
not only does that give us feedback, but it extracts what I talked about earlier. We need to kind of figure out where the gaps are.
We
So,
could put a QR code up at the end of the presentation too, so that anyone watching it on YouTube could just click on it. and
okay.
send feedback.
So I don't want to lose your thought because I think you were pitching it to the committee. Do others feel like the Google form thing is viable, not viable?
So this is my funny thing with Google. I don't use Google.
Right.
So only teachers use Google.
It's true.
I'm not gonna bring a laptop.
So what if we had somebody though that did it, that was able to type fast and do the forms and get it? Or just.
Like do it in a redundant process?
Spreadsheet, yep, a spreadsheet with just questions.
Are you volunteering?
Stuff like that.
Sure.
I'm not as fast as I know.
If-
others
if-
type it. No, I'm not that. No, I'm not that.
So what I'm hearing is the simple way about it is definitely way to go, right? Post-its are easy. Like we can have a runner. If Elliot wants to come
Well,
and
it's interactive. so
Okay, you know,
I can bring it.
I'll buy him a shake as a reward.
Well, I'll be a runner if you want to buy a shake.
Elliot needs
I know the way to his
He just had to buy a
heart.
cord. He just had to buy a cord for a Chromebook he broke out.
You
But
know,
mom did good and made sure that he was
right?
responsible for it, so I will give you that.
Now, look, are you gonna have a break during this session?
Yeah, so there'll be a 10-minute break.
That's gonna be a problem, you know that. 'Cause
Huh?
10 minutes will become 15 or 20.
I think it's management. I think we're gonna have to, I'll have to state right at the beginning, like, we're gonna take a brief break. You have 10 minutes at such and such a time. You have to be in your seats, and I'm just gonna have to hold
It is
on to
timer.
that.
Start talking.
I mean, unless people want to stay there till 9:30, you know,
Timer on the board.
to get the mallet out.
You could run a timer on there.
Yes, you could.
Absolutely.
Do you have one? You have a-
We probably, I mean.
We have
we can get a
We just show it up on the
timer.
screen. Yeah, so it's a good point. I think it's time management. We're gonna have to be really keen on that. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, right? So, not to be, overly hard, but I think I'm gonna have to, that's gonna fall a little bit on me as the facilitator to be like, you need to be back in your seat by this
And
time.
also on us to make sure, at least you're not trying to wrangle
And
us.
on the, you as a building committee, you set the pace,
Yeah.
right? So you're all back in your seat. So I would ask that of you is really pay attention and help me help everyone else. So, good point. So I guess I'll leave it with this, because I don't like to leave dead issues, right, Joe? If you can find somebody who would love to transcribe and throw it up on the screen as a secondary format, all in favor.
Okay.
But I don't want to rely it as a primary.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So let me know. I mean, you might have a superstar that loves to type, and by all means, bring them along. What else as far as meeting format? So we talked about food, table setup. We're going to have to kind of figure out as we go. Presentation screen. I don't know if there's a presentation screen in the cafeteria.
Oh, we'll find out.
All right. So could you figure that one out for
Are there
me?
any handouts that are going to be given out?
So the packet with the building committee members will be there. I'm going to talk to Phil about maybe having a couple quick cut sheets that are based on the boards that they can have in front of them. So more of like some of the financial aspects and some of that. But there's just so much information. What do I put? You know, you saw my email last night. It's like, read the stage 2. I mean, the stage 2 is voluminous, right? Consolidating that information in a digestible format is very difficult at this point. So I think we're going to have to take it in spoonfuls. And that's kind of what this whole meeting's about, right? Taking it in spoonfuls. And this is 1 teaspoon of a cup. So if you want a hard copy of that document, it's this thick. So there's a lot of information, huh?
The town's not paying to print that out.
No, we paid for that one.
Can I just say that based on what we're saying we want to do, it sounds like people, and I know the senior center has at least a room, I don't know if the rooms we're going to be in, with tables.
Yeah.
You know, people are going to, it sounds like that's how we want people to sit. Like there's a thing of Post-it notes in the middle, there's some pens, people can grab them and write.
So the
their
thing,
own,
yeah.
the food or whatever.
So the thinking with the officials, who are the invited officials, is that we kind of create a C format and with the model in the middle and the screen in the back. So I have a presenter station, we're but everyone's kind of collaborative environment, right? So people can hear questions, they're kind of crosstalk, and then the public obviously would have to sit behind that. So they're part of the presentation, but they're a layer behind everyone else.
Can I also ask that maybe, is the school building committee going to be up there too?
So I was going to actually have the school building committee sit on that same C format. So
Yeah.
everyone's collaborative in that. Like the idea is everyone's kind of, and this is where the workshop thinking comes in, right? Everyone's kind of at the same plane. It's not a presentation to a body. It's all of us working kind of together.
So-
Phil's going to work on them. Phil's working on nameplates for everybody. That'll be all uniform.
And put them in
So,
the third place, because the school building will probably want to sit together and maybe,
But I don't want that.
you know.
well, so
why?
that's actually one of the things I wanted to talk about.
I've
So,
also always disliked watching meetings with the school committee and town council, where this is the school committee, this is the town council,
Yeah.
and never the twain shall meet. I would
Yeah.
rather, especially because there's overlap on the committee,
Just mix it.
mix it up. And then questions and answers are coming from throughout your city.
so I'll
And it's
point it
not-
to the town council president. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with anything.
Okay.
I mean, I just think if I'm asking a question and someone's answering it,
You're getting bullied.
Of course you do.
it's not a us against them, or we're presenting to you and you're questioning us. We're all up here trying to work out the best plan for the school building.
I think that's a great idea, because I think that goes to the whole point of we're not talking at them.
Right.
We're collaborating, we're giving the information, and we're looking for your feedback and your questions.
So maybe just something, instead of giving specific seating arrangements, we can put town council member here, school committee member here, building committee member sits here.
Just throw them in a hat.
We could
just whatever
even
comes
sit, I
out.
know you want that C shape in the thing, but we could
Well, we'll have
even
to look
set
at
up tables where people will sit around. So it's even more interactive. I don't know how you feel about that, but where we sit at a table with other individuals and then there's just the presenters.
It's difficult because I don't
Yeah,
want people
the
having to
model,
look
I
back.
get it.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
that's
I
the
get
big
it.
thing. I want everyone to just sit back and enjoy the
You'll
show.
have to ask Bob if he has rectangular tables, because I've only seen round tables in there,
Yeah, so
I think
that's-
there's another room. I've been,
but it's small.
no, but I think there are rectangle tables in there on wheels that we
Okay.
could roll out.
They're not like,
I believe so, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Pretty nice situation over there. I actually like the idea of getting people into the senior center who have never seen it.
Me too.
Yeah.
I've
so
never
can
been
you
there.
guys make a note of that to ask
Yeah.
Bob? Because it's
Yeah.
gonna be imperative, because if we have to bring tables, we'll bring tables. but
Yeah, I think-
need to know if check the tables.
I'll try to get over there Friday too, to take a look.
So what I'm hearing is just set this in stone, is staggered seating arrangement,
Take your name
random is
tag and
good.
find a seat.
Okay,
I think keeping it as informal on that level as possible is gonna make it a comfortable
that's a great
atmosphere.
suggestion, yeah.
People kind of heard with their own So I think
Yeah,
I like the
of putting
idea,
this part.
you know. Or maybe when everybody
Yeah, the
sits
other-
down, say, 1, 2, 3, and then, then you
Just
can
let Phil
move.
put them out.
Yeah.
Phil put them,
Yeah,
everyone
have
find
them
your
put 'em
name.
out.
on it.
Yeah, I'll
There you
just,
go.
we'll take them at
Put them
random.
alphabetical, and then you
I'm
don't know,
sorry?
put them alphabetically around, and then
Yeah,
it's,
whatever. Yeah.
you know, how would
Gotcha.
it
It'll work
just.
itself out.
With my luck, everyone will be alphabet and one elected.
I don't know, we got Dixon and Shockley right here, so.
Yeah, right. So, but I think we'll figure it out. We can take it from here. I did talk to Phil this morning about making placards, so he's making standard
Nice.
placards. So it's not ours look different than town council.
No, yeah, everybody's the same.
And obviously, school building committee doesn't have placards. We don't have a budget, so. So great suggestion. Tables is on your plate, right? Or-
Yeah, I'm just putting.
Okay,
calendar,
perfect.
so-
Yeah, just write that down. What else? We'll have to look at screen.
Yeah, we have a portable screen at central office. If there
Okay.
is no screen, it's old school tripod, pull down
That's fine.
screen, but we do have a screen that we could put in.
So screen, projector,
We have projector.
visual. We're gonna be okay for the live stream? We have Wi-Fi.
I go over there.
When I talked to Bob, he said that it shouldn't be an issue, and he knows you and Cody are always in
I'll
contact.
work with Cody.
Do me a favor, give it a try before, like beta test it like the day before if possible. So that way I don't end up scrambling. Okay. What else am I missing, Gene?
This is also like a third tier thing, but just another thing they sometimes do at conferences are they have pipe cleaners or something on the tables, and if people are fidgety and they're listening, they it's like silly little stuff, but this is a school building that we're talking about, so.
We must have a bag of fidget spinners, right? Just kidding.
They're taken away
No,
from
it's-
kids.
As long as it's not clicking pens.
No, I'm throwing it out there, like I said, third tier, but just,
We'll find something.
we want to.
It's only 45 minutes.
This
We
is
should
not,
be okay.
we should be okay. If we can't be okay, how will the audience be?
If
Right.
it was an all day.
Oh, I wasn't gonna
affair.
give it twice, I was gonna give it to you.
Oh.
I like when they
Given the what?
Hershey
Me?
Kisses
I
in
wasn't gonna give
December.
them.
Yeah, that's your
That's right.
Oh.
Hershey Kisses.
Andy.
I think
My hope is everyone's so engaged, and there may even be a thrown question to an elected official every once in a while who's not on the committee, right? I know they can't answer the question, so then I'm gonna bounce it to somebody else who can. So that's how I think some of the best ways to wake people up is like, Senator Eftakis, are you aware of this? What? Kathy, can you fill him in?
He won't say
So
that.
I think it wakes people up pretty quick, and, everyone's like, oh, they may call on me, right? It's like being in school. All right, anything else before we move off this discussion topic? We're gonna be coordinating. Phil's part of the process. If you have anything, like you wake up at night and you're like, I don't think they remembered this, email me. All right. Great. Breakout team update. So I'll start with finance because I know you just had a meeting. So could you give us a debrief of maybe what was discussed and where you're at?
We discussed a very simple scenario going forwards. We went through all the different numbers that we received from Mario and Steve. I'm going to condense it down to one slide, and we'll be sending it out to the team thereafter.
So just so everyone knows that the amortization table changed, right? A little bit based on, so the,
The 5.78, or you guys about the 5.78?
yeah, but Steve had originally had, so in our stage 2 report, right?
Right.
There was some discrepancies on how Ride did it versus the way Steve did it. We've now rectified that, right?
Yes, Steve and Mario got together and actually did this
Okay.
together. So it's a combination of both of them.
So the good thing is we validated the information to this process, right, with the finance team. All right, sounds like that. John, is your shining light. What'd you think of the meeting?
I think we have a little ways to go. There's still some discussions we have to go through, but overall, I think the basic plan and the basic information we put through is reasonable expectation for the town. We want to focus on what is the state's portion versus what is going to be the town's portion and how that's broken out.
Okay. Did you feel like the information was valid and you feel comfortable with the information as presented?
I think we were able to discuss the information well as a committee, and now it's how to best present it to both the council and the town.
Okay.
And kind of, we still have some decisions to make
Mhm.
ourselves. I actually have a quick question just based on the presentation. Should I consider myself a school building committee member at this meeting and be providing information, or a town council member and be absorbing information?
So you serve both roles, just like I'm serving both roles. I consider myself, for me, I'm a building committee member first. It's a building committee member that's a joint meeting. This is a building committee meeting specifically. So I would say, if I were you, I would consider yourself, I mean, you're a building committee member. So you have just as much a right to weigh in and provide information as anybody else, as Ann does, as
I
Kathy
think
does, as
you're
I do.
in a better position, because you work, as Kathy said before, but you work closely with the council. So I think you have both those lenses, as does Dr. Dixon, as does Mr. Murray and Ms. Patino, in terms of knowing the work that's gone on here, but also knowing the council, the committee members very well. So I think that's a very a benefit to the process.
You're going to ask questions we're not even going to think of, so.
Yeah, I mean, I feel I have a responsibility to vet certain questions even harder, right? In our roles to other members, right? I owe them due diligence, right? The other three members of our committee really need to know what I think about it as a school committee member also is dealing with finances and other aspects of school operations, right? So,
And don't forget town, you live here in the town, so you're
Yeah.
making a decision for your town, because that's what this is supposed to be, for our town, getting everybody together.
sometimes I feel like I live in a different town, But no, it's true. We tend to, sometimes we forget that, right? We're residents first. We pay taxes too. So does that answer you?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anything else on finance? Ann, did you have anything that you wanted to share?
No,
or-
I think it was a little rough start because we just really didn't understand the numbers.
Mm.
And as we asked questions, I think it allowed us to have a better understanding of what these numbers meant. I don't see it as a plan yet.
Right.
I think it's a set of numbers, and it says, this is what you can expect from the state. But as far as the plan is concerned, it does have a factor in there of a 3.445% levy. And so that's a piece of it. But as to how the town would finance this and the pieces of it, we have not gone into that at all. We're just basically understanding what we need and what's coming in.
It's a process, right?
That's it.
Right.
And, I threw out 4 meetings. You could have 10. I don't really, it's the goal here is, and you don't have to, it's not like Monday or Tuesday stops that process.
Oh, yeah, we've
Um,
already discussed.
And I think we have to be honest, right? We're working on it, and we may not have all the questions baked up. I mean,
It's a
all
perfect
the answers.
segue though, too, because we're bringing in the rest of the school committee, we're bringing in the rest of the town council, we're bringing in the legislators. So I think that makes sense to me, right? Because now we have to,
We have to we have to go to the next level, and I think, I think that's something that we discussed at the end was basically, now do we bring in the town after getting this far, and then we can continue the discussion again, go to the next level down, and then bring in what we need, but, everybody has volunteered their time to do this. And Lee had stated that, I think it's, I think we have to be very careful on where we go from here, but I think the conversations need to go on. And if we could have some of this team continue forward, I think it'd be great.
When you say be careful on where we go from here, what are you referring to? Not to put you on the spot, I'm just trying to understand.
I want to be sure that the elected officials are made aware of what we're looking at in terms of the cost and how we're going to pay for it, how the town is going to pay for it. As you know, I feel very strongly about this building, this facility. Now with the recent change in real estate, values of real estate, you're going to have more and more people moving in that are going to demand better education. And we desperately need a new middle school to fulfill that demand. And so That's where I'm coming from.
So what I'm hearing is need a little more work, right, all the way around. I actually think it's great. As we move in with the town, hopefully, in discussions to bring them to the table, I'd love the finance team to continue to take that over. We took a leadership approach early on, like leadership as far as elected officials. But I think having other members on this is beneficial. To be with the town manager and the finance director as well, to get other town perspectives, right? It's not Luke Murray, elected official, being at the table. I might be a fly on the wall on some of these because I think I need to be involved as we get into some of the nitty gritties. But, if we're going to continue on, that might be, and I don't know what you think about that, but having this team really work. Now the next phase might be after that Tuesday meeting is moving to the town side and saying, how do we work together? The finance team really continues to take that role.
We definitely all agree that the town manager and the finance director in the town have to be brought into the process immediately. To work without them, without their considerations, it would be folly.
I think it's good that you had this time because now you understand the numbers. You understand a little bit of the complexities. You can talk fluently about it, right? You're not finance director, so I think getting up over the last few weeks has gotten you to the point where you're able to dialogue at a higher level, and so that was really the goal in a lot of ways. So that's great. I think you've done great work. Thanks for getting on the meeting so quickly. I know it's tough, and I appreciate the team's efforts in trying to make it happen. So
Team's been
thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Don, you're next.
So we
Marketing.
put together a marketing team that has, and I don't know if this is happening. I think Amy might be doing the same thing, but we pulled some members from outside this committee onto that team. So about half the team is made up of people who are not on our building committee, which is, I think, an excellent opportunity to engage people who are not close to this project to get their input and feedback and understanding about what's going on. We had our first meeting last Friday. It took me a little time to get the team put together, but we had our last meeting last Friday. We have another things that we need to work on. The good news is, and Phil's part of the committee as well, and working closely with us, is Phil kind of laid it out nicely, saying that, for our committee, we didn't have a drop dead deadline item for the presentation on the 31st, because the presentation on the 31st is rolling. So it gave us a little bit of room to kind of think about what we wanted to do. One of the members of our committee is Krista Violet, who is the teacher here at the Career and Tech Center in the marketing and graphics program. Well, not graphics, marketing and, is it graphics? Yeah, marketing and graphics. And she is, she has students that have done work with logos and slogans before. Matter of fact, she had shared a PowerPoint presentation with us of a project that her kids had done, and they won a state level competition. And we talked about what makes a logo effective. And so we did a little brainstorming survey. About half the people have completed it. I'll probably resend it tomorrow, just to get some juices flowing about logos, thinking about shape, size, color, imagery, text, all those things, scalability. There's a lot of things that go into it. And then she's going to take that information and she's going to work with the students. And Phil is also going to come to her classroom and work with the students. And they're going to help build out the logo design. And then we'll be able to work on the slogan along with that. I already talked to Jim about our website. We have the capacity to put on a button for the school building project. Jim has been working on it. He had a button that he put on, but didn't like how it looked. And so he reached out to the designer and they're going to fix it so it looks the way we want it to look. So once that button is ready, that becomes a place where we can start putting information. One of the people on the committee is Jay Longley. He also supports our district with Envisions. He helped us with the ransomware. He's also a resident and he has a lot of knowledge about website design. And he said that he would also help with the layout of that space. So when we put information there, it wasn't just a laundry list of hyperlinks, but it actually was something engaging. So he's going to help with that. FAQ, part of my brainstorming survey, I also put as a question, especially to people who are not close to this project, of like, what are your questions, being just a resident who doesn't know really much about this? And we're going to use that to start the FAQ, but I think we'll also use these Post-it notes that we talked about today. And then I talked to Luke, but I've also talked to the committee and some other people just about social media in general, how we want to leverage that to get the message out. We already have a social media presence. We have a Coventry Schools Facebook, we have a Coventry Schools Twitter, we have a Coventry Schools YouTube, we have a Coventry Schools Instagram. And each one of those has its following already. To start from scratch would mean having to rebuild a following in each one of those platforms, and I don't think we really have time for that. So we're going to use our current platforms to strategically share out information. But where I think it becomes most impactful is either people on the committee, this committee, the marketing committee, or just the school department at large begin to share out, reshare, retweet, and push the information out to a wider audience. When Luke put up his agenda for the meeting on the 31st, I retweeted it and I put it on our Facebook page. And I want to say within like the first day and a half that I put it up, and it had already been up on another Facebook page, 600 people had already taken a look at it. And that's only after like a day and a half. So, and a few people reshared it. On that particular link, I actually shut off comments. And the reason why I shut off comments is because I saw on the other page, there was lots of comments and I wasn't sure what direction those comments were going in. And so I chose to say, this is information only. I'm not going to engage in comments right now because I don't want to create a back and forth or a dialogue that I can't really moderate. So I didn't open the comments on that one. That's about it. Any questions for me?
So the only thing I've talked to Don about is social media is one of the priorities right now. Setting up a format for that too, right? So how are we going to address things? Not just you're in charge of social media, go on Facebook and post it out. What are the parameters, right?
Yeah, actually, I left something off. I'm glad you brought that up. So Phil had already worked on a marketing plan that he shared with Luke. He also shared it with me. I'm going to share that marketing plan. It's more strategic about what you do, when, and how you do it, and who's responsible for what. And because marketing isn't just like just put whatever out whenever. It's really strategic. Timing is everything. And so he shared a plan with me that he had created that I'm going to then share with the committee on Friday.
So you can send that with us too, because I think once we get to logistics, like there's some questions that I still have relative for our committee around, like, because I think when you put those things out, really has something to do with some of the work that we
100%.
do too. So
100%.
Yeah, so,
That's a big overlap.
yeah, you guys need to be talking.
well, we are talking a lot. We talk a lot, but
Well,
right
yeah,
now it's not about.
it's not about this,
personal
right?
buildings.
Carve out a half hour for this, right? No, that's
Is there
good.
in the way of the school building committee?
There's a few things right now. He tells me Monday it'll be calmer on Monday.
So the only ask I have of the marketing team is, and this will get into the logistics team too, is schedule and deliverables.
Yep.
Set some goals.
Yep.
Set some milestones, achievable.
Yep, I agree with that.
Because I need predictability.
Mhm.
We need predictability, right?
Mhm.
When is that going to get done? So I don't care, we can do it. We only can do what we can do, right? And you only know that. So,
Mhm.
but it'd be nice to know when we expect to have logo, when we expect to have that social media presence. That's all.
Yep,
So
that's
by
great.
next meeting, if you could get something
Mhm.
together, it doesn't have to be a Alita Hall Gantt chart schedule,
It's not going to.
Google Sheets or something is fine. So, and just on the FAQ, I did start an FAQ, which actually during the early council meetings last year, I had started an FAQ of council questions. So I'll reshare that with you.
Yeah, because I think that needs to be prominently placed on the Facebook page, but I think it also has to be available to people so that when people have questions, instead of somebody on the fly trying to come up with an answer that may not be the right answer, we can just refer them to an FAQ.
Is there a way to tag in an FAQ a specific link for a specific question? So if you had a website and you had like drop downs, so if somebody on the, say, social media says, well, one question that was on the agenda one was the enrollment, student enrollment. So I just snipped out the enrollment out of stage 2 report and I said, here you go. I threw it in a Google Drive. But if there was some way that we could tag the individual question and answer, as opposed to just saying, here's the FAQ.
I don't know about that. Hyperlink text from within a document.
So if we hyperlink that individual text, that individual FAQ line.
You could do that too.
I mean, just put it out there for the world.
That's too simple. We got overcomplicated. Can't stop it.
I'm not tech support or anything, but just turn it off and turn it back
Yeah,
on.
that's
again.
true. So I'll share that with you. I know.
What do you think of that, Jim?
Everyone should
Hey,
always
hey.
before they
So
call.
literally the first thing they say every time you call.
I had somebody say one time, I gotta scan it in and now I gotta print it. And I said, why don't you just make a copy? Oh, yeah, I need to make a copy. Okay. All right, you're next.
All right.
Logistics.
So I,
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges for my committee right now is I have a lot of people on my committee. I think Alita's the only one that, a lot of people that don't know about the building project. Because I either have a group of people in the community, which is 7 people in the community that have joined my committee, which is great. And they span, like I tried to pick families that I knew that had young children, really young toddlers, that they're up and coming, families that had elementary, middle school, and high school, and even families that have a person from a family that has somebody who's completely out of school. I also picked a community member that's involved in lots of events, like in the community and in other communities. And we'll kind of know where everything is happening, both in the business and in like events across our town. But none of them know about the building committee and know about this project. And then the other half of the committee is made up of principals, and administrators in the town. And some of them aren't residents, but they also can be part of the working with the marketing committee and how do we get this message out? So I feel like this group meeting that we're having next week, as well as what we're doing tomorrow with the school department, it takes some of the workload off of me in terms of educating them. So I've invited the people that aren't on the building committee to come to the meeting, and also the ones that are the administrators will hear about things tomorrow. So I don't think they have a lot of information. So we talked about the people in the community that are coming as starting either the first or second after they can go to either the presentation tomorrow or the one at the beginning of next week. So at least they have some background behind this, because what am I asking them to do if they don't even know much around it, other than what I've told them in a very surface level kind of way.
That's fair. So the first thing I would say is your first meeting then is the 31st. Bring them all.
Yeah,
And we'll call them out. I'll have you identify them.
Okay. Okay.
So they're not going to be called in attendance as part of like the main table.
Right.
But they should be there. So we'll at least say, this is, we'd like to recognize some of our team members who are here. Can you raise your hand, finance team? Can you raise your hand, marketing team? I like to invite his. Can you raise your team, logistics and
Okay.
coordination?
Definitely.
I think it'd be nice to identify, because it also puts out there that this is a much broader effort, right?
Yeah,
We have
that's great.
subgroup, sub teams that are actually working on this as well.
Means we're gonna need more food though.
You're worried about your portion or what there, Greg?
I don't worry.
I'm not being rude, but Phil is watching this meeting, so he's been like popping in here. Actually, tell Amy's team to come to the Tuesday night.
Perfect.
We think alike. And I swear, Phil, I didn't even read that before you told me. So yeah, I think that's a great opportunity. You're right. Let's educate them.
Right.
And then the other thing I would say is what you can do in the short term is just start gathering up community event schedules.
Well,
Reach
so
out to parks
actually, the principals have already started to think about those things. And because I think the ones that are working with me, like what are some of the events that happen in your particular area? We also talked about like, how can we do this at like daycares? How can we do this at like soccer fields, at the high school events? We have had many conversations all over the place around where we can make these things happen. It's just now putting it all together. However, I don't feel like they know enough about the building committee to help me to promote things either.
So we'll get them up to speed, but I think what
Yeah.
you can do, because you know the process, is just
Right.
they don't need to know what even it's for. If I just put out an email to the parks director and I said, hey, what events do you have coming up? Period. Athletic leagues, whatever. Dump all the information into like a master schedule.
Yeah.
And then you guys can go through later on and call out what are the most important events based on now they're going to understand the project after next week. What would be the most beneficial? So
Yeah.
that's my general guidance.
I also always work on that, like high impact low effort kind of thing. So like, where is the biggest kind of, where we don't have to put a ton of things, but everyone's going to see it. So finding those events first, like it's going to make a high impact and a low amount of effort. Of course, you're also going to do the other kind where you have to put a lot of effort into it, but you always want it to have that high impact. And I feel like we do have to really target what events, like I think football games at the high school are huge. I think the soccer field, Payne soccer field is huge. I think daycares where those kids are going to be coming to our schools soon are going to be huge. There's so many big events that happen in our town every weekend. I was listening to a mom the other day talk about 3 different events she had to be at in one particular weekend. And I thought, those are all places that we can.
I'm sure nobody here can relate, right?
No, I'm out of those things now, but I definitely remember them.
I know it
So-
sounds funny, but I wonder if someone like Nate the Great would put up a poster or something with some info, because everyone goes and gets their kids haircut there, or their
Yeah.
little ones at least.
Businesses, I think, are going to be
Those are the
huge.
ideas we're looking
Kid
for,
center,
right? You know,
Kathy, I'm sorry, Amy, there were 2 craft shows in September. One is at the Payne House, a craft show with a brass band. And then later, I think a week later, there's going to be one at Camp Westwood.
Okay.
Can we get the demographic of the 2,500 voters that vote all the time?
can we get the
Excellent.
demographic of the voters?
We
Yes.
have a person who is sorting data for us, and we have a list of people who have voted in each of the 3 referendum, but it does not tell you how they voted.
Right.
And we know that many voted no.
But if we talk about parents all the time, all these events we talk about, it's targeting school age parents. I would love to know who those, I mean, you look at the numbers all the time. It's 2,500 people vote in this town all the time. Who are those people? What are their age groups? I want to know if those are school age parents who are coming out to vote.
The greatest number of people who are voting are like about 45 and over.
And I
Right, and
guarantee you a
that's
ton of them have to do work in the school department. That's why I think tomorrow is huge.
Keep in mind, though, different dynamic, right? Special ballot, specific issue.
Not all.
So I agree with you. It's a fair comment, but part of our effort is getting those who don't normally vote out for this one
Absolutely.
topic.
I think we should also reach out to everyone who's moved into this town in the past couple of years.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
we talked
Excellent.
Great
about, we
idea.
talked about, I say we, I don't remember, I think Don was part of it, but some administrators. So when I was a kid, they used to have like a welcome wagon, right?
Yes.
Like the one time, but they would give you, I don't know, a basket, but it had like coupons, it had everything in the town. And I thought, when new people come in, in registration, again, it comes down to just time and having the people, but we thought about going around to all the businesses and saying, when somebody comes into town with children, we could give them a packet, but there's a way to give them all kinds of information. I was on the board of Tri-County Community Action Program, and they had a disc, every year they updated it, and they gave it to the community, and it was all the services, everything you could think of in the community. But it just took so much time, but once it was populated, just updated. But I thought that would be, obviously I haven't done it.
Well, I think another great thing to have in that packet is, welcome to the community, you're in District 1. Your voting location is going to be blank.
Right.
And they need to register to
Information
vote.
People don't, and this is where you register to vote, QR code, like.
Yeah.
So I'm just a reminder, I don't want to rain on the parade because I think these are all great ideas. 2 phases to this, right? Right now it's communication, information. Marketing's a little bit, we have to get to council, right? So Phil, under the monies that I'm petitioning the school committee for, right, under his scope is communication and information. Can't be marketing because it's school money, it's Feinstein money, but it's still school money. So, not that we can't adapt his information later. So just kind of segregate that a little bit. It's one conversation, but just as we talk about it too, I want to be honest with the public too, is that, right now it's about getting good information out there, right? So part of that, I think it's more for your benefit to knowing that there's a dividing line,
Yep.
pre and post referendum. We've kind of talked about
Yeah.
that. So, but good ideas all around. I mean, it's like,
I-
so
I just
how
want to
can we
acknowledge-
help you? How can the committee help you?
Well, I just needed some time. It's also a crazy time right now. So to be completely honest, I'm sure it is for all of you, but it is a particularly crazy week to try to wrestle principals in
Yep.
to do this right now. And even the few community members that I have. So I think John keeps promising me this, but I think next Monday will be better. I also have to apologize that I have my phone out right now. My son is in Utah and he had not responded to me. And I'm feeling so much better. He just did. So I feel he's traveling through a national park and I hadn't heard from him. I'm like, so I feel so much better now. So thank you.
So I think one of the things that we can say is, as a committee, we could help you with is identifying, we've said this before, but email is a great thing, right? We have a logistics person. If you have an event that you come up with
Yes.
and put a couple out there, it's always nice to document it because Amy's very busy, as we all are. Just send a couple lines. Hey, I'm aware of this event. If it comes across, type it up on the phone, send it. She can add it to the schedule, right?
Yes,
So that's a way
absolutely.
we can support you.
Yes, that'd be
And
awesome.
does the town keep a calendar of all their events?
No, but we just approved licenses for 2 events at the meeting Monday.
Okay.
So that's how we know about the same school.
Okay.
Well, that's good to know
If
too,
if
right?
there was a calendar online of events,
So
we
I'd know
just,
about this.
That would be very nice. It would be worthwhile.
that's what we're doing on our website. I'm not saying we're experts at it, but we're just now starting and we're just trying to put all our events on that calendar. So that, our school department events, so we know what's what.
Okay. So that'll be,
Yeah,
We do have. to-
understood, right? I mean, this is a volunteer effort,
But to Amy's point, the last thing, I don't want to step on it too much, but we do have open houses starting in a few weeks, and that's going to be a big opportunity for us.
That would probably be like number one priority.
oh, I totally agree.
So we're
But I
gonna,
also
Are
think
we
that
getting our model?
marketing needs,
yeah.
tell us what
you hear
we-
me?
That's
what
the
he
key.
has, and then what
That
we
should
have
be
to
at
get
every one
done.
of these events.
It's a little
Like,
bulky.
do we
I
have a
think
logo by then or no?
We
It'll
may have
fit in your
to,
truck.
Do
It'll
we-
fit in your
Do
truck.
we use those big
we
posters?
may have to get a
I'd like to
bite-sized
travel
model
those.
after this. But, I think the bigger model may end up having to stay on display, maybe at the library or something like that, or in the middle of town hall or something. I don't know. I'll have to talk about that. It's a little unwieldy to carry. It's a 2-person lift. So we could use it for certain events, but we may want to get a smaller, more manageable model.
I know somebody who might be able to help, a CHS graduate.
So we're all hands on deck. So if you know somebody who's willing to throw in a hand, then by all means, far be it from me to deny good help. So, all right. So that was the and then as far as presentation, it's not really a team. I've kind of had to take charge of the presentation because we have 0 time. I didn't have time to and presentation really requires knowing the project, like intimately knowing the project. So Phil and I kind of meeting on that. Phil's really taken a lot of, providing a lot of effort on this. So Phil, if you're out there, thank you. And we're working back and forth. So we'll be continuing to work on it. We're coming up with questions. We'll do the drive on Monday. So anyone have questions on the presentation team? All right. So we're clicking right along. Really, that's it for tonight. Where are we on time? 7:38. Well, it's before 8 o'clock. We have no public here, so public comment, I guess, is off the table. And scheduling a next meeting, which would be Monday, the 30th at 6 o'clock. Is 6 o'clock work for everybody? Do we want to do it later, earlier? I don't care either way.
I'm going to have to leave because we have a council meeting at 8 o'clock that night. We have to, actually executive session around 7:30.
Bless you.
Our budget meeting starts at 8 o'clock.
We'll try to keep it, we're gonna try to keep it clicking.
Well, we're going to leave.
No, I mean,
We'll be across the street. So you can
Quick
go-
away.
yeah.
We'll be
Yes.
exiting.
What I'm saying is, my hope is to get majority done before you have to leave.
Fire
Right, so
district.
it'll be, so convenient to you, it'll be at the annex, so you can walk across the street.
We're
So
gonna be at the school department.
my goal,
Number for dinner tonight, so. a little
It was
bit.
unbelievable.
later,
Mhm.
I mean, starting at 6.
You're
I
winning.
have a.
so,
And when you talk to your other curriculum.
does everyone eat pizza? Because I can bring a couple pizzas for us, so that way you have some dinner.
Wait, it's on
For us, is that good? All right, so I'll buy the
Suggestion.
pizza, it's on me.
She will get-
So we'll have pizza 6 o'clock on Monday, the 30th. So can I get a motion to schedule a meeting for Monday, the 30th at 6 o'clock?
Second the motion.
Kathy, do I get a second?
I seconded it.
Thank you, Lee.
Opposed?
All
The
those
ayes
in
have it.
favor, just hand vote. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much. And I'll take a motion to adjourn at 7:40.
So this
I'll
is
make a
six.
motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.